My name is Simone Blagg. I have Clara Tony here with us. I'm sure most of you guys have talked to Miss Tony on the phone. She's our go-to person for, if you have an issue with fingerprints, she's the lady you call. We have Carmisha Smith. She helps process background checks and make sure that everybody's cleared. And Alicia Alexander, who also does take the fingerprints. So does everybody know what NSFW means? It's not safe for work. Sometimes if you get a link from someone and you ask, if it has NSFW, don't click it at work. That's not, there's something wrong with that link that you don't want your boss or somebody to see on your history or even just walk over your shoulder with you. So don't click that. So our objective today is not just taking fingerprints and how that works, but talking about the whole process, because it's much more than just taking the fingerprints. Because part of it is making sure that the people that you have applying for your jobs, after their background check is cleared or denied, that you're taking the appropriate steps to make sure that they are either in or out of the school the way they need to be. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you have any questions, if I start talking too fast, what I do is that, so you don't have to interrupt, just put your finger on your nose and I'll slow down. It's okay. And so, are you guys ready for some fun? Okay, great. It's not that fun, but we're gonna try. So here's the law and what you need to know. Who needs background checks? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Everybody. Perfect answer. So anyone who holds or wants to hold an educator license or someone who seeks employment in a public school, even if they're a third-party vendor. So I know some school districts have like their cafeteria outsourced. If that person is in your school filling a regular position, you're going to want them background checked. So 617-410 is for educators applying for or renewing a license. So if you are a teacher, administrator, superintendent, you need a license or an endorsement, you're going to get background checked under this law. 617-410. And the number of the law that they check on the box is important because it gives them different rights. And if you're not an actual teacher checking 410, that's a problem. Also, 617-410 applies to pre-service teachers. That's the interns, people that are in school, Apple applicants, things like that. 617-411 covers people that are changing jobs. It's not just changing jobs within the school district, because I know it's that time of year where everybody's packing up and moving to a new school if their numbers aren't right. It's if you're looking for a new job at a new district. Changing district job, like changing jobs from district to district. It's more of an initial employment. So if you're doing initial employment as an educator, you check 617-411. .414 is for classified employees. That's everybody else. That's your speech pathologist, that's 414. It's the contractors that fill a regular position. Examples, speech therapists, cafeteria workers, and your third-party vendors that we just talked about. And everyone should be checked through their verification code. If you have subs and you use SubTeach or any of the other substitute teacher services, everyone has a verification code. We'll talk more about verification codes because everyone should have a verification code. And if you don't, you just give us a call and we'll take care of that. So make sure that your vendors have cleared their background checks. Like the applicants through vendors have cleared their background checks. Oops. And then 617-421. That applies to fiscal officers. A fiscal officer is any licensed or non-licensed employee of an educational entity. That means if you have an LEA number, you're an educational entity that has the right, duty, or responsibility to access funds over $5,000. So if they touch more than $5,000, please run them under 421. And the reason for that is because people under fiscal officers, we look at different disqualifying offenses. Oh, examples of this, your bookkeepers. Oops. We look at fraud. Fraud matters for people handling money. We don't look at that as a disqualifying offense for teachers or substitute teachers or other people. But if you're handling large sums of money and you've been charged with felony fraud, We don't really want you touching that money. Like if you're a district and you do, that's between you and your district. But as the Arkansas Department of Education, that's not something we encourage. So, disqualifying offenses. Does everybody know disqualifying offenses? Know what I mean? These are the things that will prevent you from getting a license, being in the classroom, being employed by the school. These are the things that we say no to. We don't look at everything. Shoplifting? No. Unfortunately, we don't look at DWIs right now, because it takes 4 of those for it to hit felony level. So that's not something we look at, but you as a district have that opportunity if you do a separate background check, but not through us. We don't look at those. Some disqualifying offenses include kidnapping. We don't want you. Sorry. Assault. Indecent exposure, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony level. Felony level drugs. And any felony not listed on our long list of 44 things that involves the physical or sexual injury, mistreatment, or abuse against another person. There's a very long list of crimes that can involve hurting someone else. If we put everything there, the law would get too long. So that's our catch-all. And things change, they add things every day. So, any questions so far? Yes?
Okay, sorry. So like on a bus driver classified, if that person had DWI, it would not show.
Bus drivers are different.
Okay.
That's a good question. The question was, how does this apply to bus drivers since we don't look at DWIs? Bus drivers drive under CDLs, commercial driver's license. If you get a DWI under a commercial driver's license, that's a whole different issue. You won't keep that license. They look at that separately. So we don't touch bus drivers per se in that area, but their DWIs for bus drivers is covered under their commercial driver's license. So the CDL is what keeps you safe for that. Everybody good with that? That's a good question. Thank you. Okay, so the background check process. Step 1 is the payment. People come to us and call us all the time for payment, so I'm sure they're calling you for payment questions as well. If they're an individual, you can tell them to go to the website and read this lovely document called Online Payments for ASP and FBI. That's the Arkansas State Police and Federal Bureau of Investigations. They need to pay online with a credit card or a debit card. We don't take cash, we don't take checks. The Arkansas State Police, if you show up there to take them, they're not going to do it either. So they need to pay online with a debit card or a credit card. If they say they don't have one of those, then you are more than welcome to suggest that they go get those credit card gift cards. You know, everybody know what I'm talking about, like the little Visa cards you can buy at the checkout line, and use that. The website that they go to is www.arkansas.gov/ADE/background. I'm sorry, ADE background. They need to print their receipt. It doesn't have to be on paper. You need a screenshot. You need some bit of information because the receipt number that they have is what's going to let you pull up their fingerprints. If you're a school and you're paying for your applicants' background checks, you can do that, but you would need to set up an account through INA. Now, if you do that, there is a service charge whether you're using it or not. So if you don't run a lot of background checks, then this might not be something you need to do. If you are running a lot of background checks on your individuals, then that might be something you can do. You can always do reimbursement of your employees, just reimburse them after they do that. Or if you have like a separate credit card to pay for each individual that way, that's something you can look into as well. Whoops. Okay, so the online background check system, this is what it looks like when they go to pay. It says, sorry, it looked much bigger on the computer screen. Choose a school, verification code, select payment, and your email address. I'm sorry, select your reason for fingerprinting. So you choose your school. All of them are listed in a lovely drop-down menu. If they don't know, they can pick Arkansas Department of Education, but they should call you if they don't know. It's just your co-op, your school district, whoever you're looking for. And if they have a question, they can also call us. You choose your reason. This is why it's very important to choose the correct reason. All those laws we listed earlier, 410, 411, 414, and 21, they need to pick the correct reason here, as well as on a later screen. So I have Arkansas Department of Education, and I am an educator teacher selecting to get the license renewed. And then you enter your email address. Yes, ma'am.
What if they pick the wrong
If they pick the wrong reason, we'll go ahead and still process it. That's not gonna, it's the part that affects them picking the wrong reason is, so let's say you're a teacher and you accidentally click classified. As a teacher, if you had a disqualifying offense and you had the correct option, your recourse for having a disqualifying offense is going before the state board to say, hey, I was young and dumb and I'm recovered, I'm ready to be a teacher, I taught in such and such other state, or something like that. But if you touch 414 as a classified employee, you have no options. I'm gonna tell you to rerun it because I can't give you the option before the state board unless you're under the right number. And the same goes for, yes ma'am.
I noticed that when you're doing it on the electronic submission, they had the codes wrong in the drop down.
Okay,
I want to know, has that been fixed?
I will take a look at
Like
that.
on Classified, non-classified, it had the wrong code itself in the computer. Yeah.
For okay, we'll talk about that and we'll look into that. Because we'll take a look at that. Yes, sir.
If they select the wrong code, they have to go back and do it again?
The question was, if they select the wrong code, do they have to go back and do it again? Only if they want a certain right that comes with that code. So if it's the teacher in the classified position that we just talked about, then yes, they're gonna have to redo it if they wanna go before the state board. If it's a classified employee, and they selected the wrong code, they're gonna have to probably redo it. Like they're gonna have to, because if you're a classified employee and you have a disqualifying offense, you can't go before the state board. Your recourse as a classified employee is to go to your school district's school board. Or if you're a charter school, whoever your superintendent is, your board, your governing board like that. Yes?
If we hired a teacher who has a license in a classified position, which would be better to run?
You need to run them, they're in a classified position.
But
If,
they have a license.
if they have a license, I'm sorry, Ms. Tony?
They have a license, you have to run the background according to how they are employed.
Yes, according to how they're employed. Yes, ma'am, you had a question?
Yes, how would you know if they picked the wrong code or not?
How would you know if they picked the wrong code?
Can you pull it up on L?
No, so you don't know if they picked the wrong code if they don't do it in front of you. Some I know have them, like some people, they do it in front of you, and some people do it for their applicants, and some people are like, just bring me the stuff. Whatever process works for you, and you can just stress to them the importance of picking the correct code, because if they don't, and it comes back in like 6 weeks that they can't do what they need to do because they picked the wrong code, we have to have some choice. Like there's some responsibility as the individual. Yes, ma'am?
How does it affect when they do the payment part, they chose the wrong position, but when I get to the electronic submission, you choose the right position?
That's okay. So the question was, how does it, if on the online consent form, they choose the wrong one, but on the reason for, like when they, on the consent form, they choose classified employee, but on the payment part, they choose a teacher, and you're actually a teacher, that's okay. What has to match is what you are and your payment. That's what we look at. I look at your payment and your position. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you. These are good questions.
So it's according to the consent form submission, not what you do in the computer.
We,
On the FBI part.
the question was, it's according to the consent form and not the FBI part. It's actually, like, the consent form is important because we like everything to match up, but the most important part is your online payment part. So this part right here, your online payment part, and the actual reason. Yes, ma'am?
So can we drop down, like, can we get on there and just drop down and screen print all the reasons and tell our applicant this is the one we need to choose to make sure that
Yes.
we're doing it correctly?
Yes, there is, if you go to, we'll get to a slide and I'll show you what it looks like so you can see that, and it's like, you can just screenshot the whole list and it'll be gorgeous, and you can say, these are what you're gonna pick from. We'll get there though. Yes, ma'am?
So it's not according to what I said. You're saying that the actual payment part is what you all have in your system. It's when you're gonna look at, not when I correct it on the FBI part. Like, you know, when you go and do your payment and you get your transaction number,
Yes,
that's what you all have in your records.
yes.
So when I go and do the FBI part, the background check, and I correct it there, it's not gonna notice that. It's not gonna take that.
So the question was about the FBI report and correcting that. So,
Yeah, you know, when they did their payment part, they
Yes.
And then when they got to me, they was like, I said, what's your position? And they tell me, and then I was like, oh, that's the wrong one, you chose the wrong one. I said, well, I'll just correct it here, when I get ready to do her actual fingerprint.
No,
Changing the drop down.
don't do that. Sorry. So the question was very detailed and specific, but basically, if someone, please tell me if I'm misstating the question incorrectly, okay? So if someone says, I selected option A for a fiscal employee and I'm just a teacher, and can I go back in later and change their option? No, do not do that.
It's classified, the substitute teachers will come in all the time and choose choose classified,
Yes,
and they're non-classified, and so
yes.
they have that C number instead of the N number.
Yes. So the statement was about the substitute teachers, and substitute teachers often pick the wrong code. They usually choose teacher. So you're not going to want to have them choose that. So just tell them up front you're going to do classified employees. You can tell your subs, we're going to do classified employees. You're a classified employee. We're going to run you as a classified employee. All right. So after you have clicked the green button for select, you have this lovely document. It shows up and has all of your consents. They need to read this because they're opting into a lot of things. This is where they opt into wrap-back, which we'll talk about more, but this is their rights and privileges and what they need to know. Yes.
Just have a question. You were stating that the stats that they choose to run the background check, just to be clear in everybody's mind, the background check has to be ran according to how the payment is done. Even if they pay for a classified employee, but they ran it as a teacher, the background check and the payment have to coincide, okay? Regardless of what they tell you. They come to you with an EDN, and they say they're EDC, you got to run it as an EDN if that's the way they pay.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Tony. Did everybody get that? So we need to select both boxes. They have to have both boxes checked. They have to fill out the bottom information with all of their details. It even asks height, weight, so that you would have this information to look at and make sure this is the individual that you're looking at. I filled it in. You click next. And this is where you enter your credit card information. You click confirm. And you will get your receipt. On your receipt is this transaction number, your EDC number, and that's what you're going to use to pull up your fingerprint if you're doing it with the machine. If you're doing a live scan machine, that's what the information you're going to use to pull up the individual. And you need to print that receipt. So screenshot it, print it out on paper, have that with you. Tell your applicant to bring that with you. Step 2 is the online consent form. There are 2 online consent forms. There's the first official online consent form. You just go to arkansased.gov and choose B for background checks. And there's a form on this page called online consent form, or you can copy and paste the link. And there's also an INA consent form. Those are the people, that's the credit card processing agency, so there's both consent forms. You will need to print or screenshot the consent form as well. When you have fingerprints, you need to have your receipt and your fingerprint and your consent form before you run fingerprints. This is the website you're going to go to. Background check consent form is the one circled in red. When you click that form, this is where all of your codes are lined up that we talked about earlier. So this is the lovely print screen. It has employee classified 617-414, employee fiscal officer, employee substitute teacher. You can select employee substitute teacher because that's still run under 414. So if you're a substitute teacher, if you have substitute teachers, you can go ahead and go through that. There's a licensed teacher option as well as a license renewal and lifetime licenses as well as, what does that last one say? Pre-service teacher, thank you. It seemed much, much bigger. This is where you want to pick the correct option as well. We've talked about that already. You want to try and make sure everything lines up, but payment and reason are the most important correct options. This is just your consent form. If you mess up here, it's less of a problem, but we really want everybody to have all the correct information. So they're going to fill out this information. We filled it out. When you're done, you click continue. This gives them all of their rights and what to do if something happens wrong, if they feel there's something wrong on their background check. So if it comes up and says, hey, you're arrested for murder, and you're like, no, that was not me. There are lots of people who have the same names, and you would be surprised if they have same names and same date of birth. It happens a lot, and so it could be an issue with like records or something, but you want that person, they'll contact us. You as the employer will never know that, but we at the ADE do, and so they need to know how to get this fixed. They need to electronically sign their name. They just type it out. That's it. You don't have to print it and sign it. Just have them sign their name. Then you hit the green button. And it says step 6, fingerprinting. So this is where they're coming to us or you guys to get fingerprinted. And they need to print or download that form. That consent form, when they download it, will look just like this, have all that information. So make sure that you have that when you're taking your fingerprints. Step 3, fingerprints. This is the best part. Everybody knows how to do that. Is everybody in here taking their own fingerprints? Okay, so if you are, great. If you're not and you want to start checking out a machine as a school district, if you don't have your own machine, then we will talk about how to check those out and what you need to do for that. So your fingerprints need to be completed within 14 days, 14 days of payment. If it's been over 14 days, give us a call. Everybody understand that? 14 days. We want people in there. You don't want someone who starts the process and then falls off the face of the earth and comes back in 3 years and says, hey, I applied to be a teacher or I applied to be a sub in your district and I want to work for you. Coming and saying, hey, I already paid. No, we're not doing that. Get them in and get them fingerprinted. Yes, ma'am.
That applies for like lifetime teacher renewals, they still have 14 days.
Yes.
Okay.
The question was, it applies to everyone. Does it apply to lifetime teacher renewals? Yes. If you make a payment, 14 days to get in there and get your fingerprints. If it's been over 14 days, give us a call and we'll talk to you. Make sure you have your consent form. So for Arkansas applicants, you're going to go to a live scan fingerprint location and bring your receipt with your transaction number, the online consent form that was printed, downloaded, or captured, and a valid government issued ID. If you have questions as to what counts as a valid government issued ID, call us. But for the most part, you want a driver's license, you want something that's issued by the government with a picture and not expired. That's why that word valid is important. School districts and charter schools may check out the portable machines if they need one. So where can your fingerprints be taken? At the ADE. So if you don't have that, send them to us. Or you can send them to a local co-op. They have the machines there as well. There's a list available online. There's also fingerprint cards because some people live far away from everybody. So fingerprint cards are an option, but it takes a very, very, very long time to process paper cards. We encourage everyone to do online. And when I say very long time, I'm talking 3 months, if not longer. And that's assuming that everybody does everything perfectly for a paper card. So you can go to your local law enforcement office and get that done. Do not go to the Arkansas State Police. They will send you back. They are not going to talk to you. They're going to say, nope, nope, we don't do that. Go to the Arkansas Department of Education. Go to your co-op. So, yes, ma'am.
We're gonna say the same thing.
The fingerprint card must be a pre-approved card through the Department of Education.
Thank you.
No other fingerprint card will be accepted.
It must be a pre-approved fingerprint card. No other fingerprint cards are accepted. Yes, sir. That's only, the question was, is that only if you're using a fingerprint card? And yes. If you're using a live scan machine, you can ignore all this. If you are using paper cards, it has to be pre-approved. In the packet on your desk, there are fingerprint cards, so you can take a look at what those look like for classified employees and teachers under 410 and 414. And if you need extras, give us a call. We'll be happy to send those out to you. Yes, ma'am.
Two or three questions.
Okay.
Or did they come to me for fingerprints, and I know there's no way, I mean, they take awful fingerprints. Can they go ahead and take the card and before they receive the letter to get the process started then, or do they have to wait for the letter?
Okay, so the question was, if they have horrible fingerprints, do we have to continue with the live scan process, or can I just give them the card up at the beginning of everything?
I know you have to submit them, but.
Yes. So the question is, yes, you can give them the card. If you know that if they don't have good prints, some people just have horrible prints. I've heard it happens for some, you never know why people have bad prints. So if they have bad prints and you know it's not going to go through, you can go ahead and give them the card, have them go to their local law enforcement office and bring it back to you, and you guys can submit it to us that way.
And on the lifetime license, I've had, you know, when they get the lifetime license, and they stay with the same employer up until the time they retire, they don't have to have the background check run anymore, right? Or do they still have to do it every 5?
If they have the question was, if they have a lifetime license and they're with the same employer, do they have to get another background check every 5 years? If they have a lifetime license, they are still with the same employer, they do not need to get another background check. If they change employers, they would. And does anybody know under what code we're going to run them? You can shout it out. 411. Thank you. 411 is right. 411 is what you're going to run them when they change their district. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Does that apply, like, if you do the live scan and they're rejected and you have to give them the card, what about your 14-day period between the payment and the background check? Is that gonna affect that any?
No. So the question was, if the fingerprints, if they come to the live scan location, their fingerprints aren't running and you have to give them the card, does that affect the 14-day period? No, it does not. As long as they'll get them back to you. If someone goes through the trouble of going to their law enforcement agency to get their cards, they're coming back to you. So it does not affect your 14-day time period, though. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got a question on fiscal officers, because I did not know any of that.
Okay.
So you said bookkeepers, but is that any position that may touch, because my main secretary in every campus
Yes, ma'am.
touches thousands of dollars.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
My athletic secretary, you know,
So the question was, do fiscal officers count as secretaries? Because everybody, like, your secretaries are touching a lot of money. They're the people that are getting all the money from the teachers in the classroom, and they're making sure that everything's deposited or it's going to the bookkeeper. Yes, you want to have them run as fiscal officers. If they're touching and they're responsible for more than $5,000, you want them under 421 fiscal officers.
and my third-party vendors, like we contract out our cafeteria, those cashiers,
Third-party vendor cashiers.
they're touching a lot of money.
Is it more than $5,000? So the question, I guess, so the question was, if you have a cafeteria worker who's outsourced from a third-party vendor, and it's the cashier, the person who's collecting the money from the students every day, are they going to be fiscal officers? That really comes down to how your process is. How many students do you have? Are they collecting more than $5,000 a day? If they are, and they're keeping it and holding on to it for a couple of days, then yes, you want to have them run as fiscal officers. If they're not, and they're turning it in every day, then you don't need to. They can just be classified employees. Yes, sir?
What about an office manager that reviews payables?
What about an office manager who reviews payables? Do they have access to the money?
No.
If they don't have access to the money and they don't have like a right or a duty to touch it, so if they're not a signatory on a check or something like that, then no. No.
I'm sorry. So if we just have like a teacher, like our FFA director, he may have tens of thousands of dollars, but only during certain times of the year when they do, you know, sales or things like that. Should I worry about background checking for the fiscal officer side?
So you might not want to worry about fiscal officer side checking on that, but you might want to review your internal policies on how that's being handled, because it might not be the best option to have one person responsible for tens of, like, over five.
I mean, he's double checked. I mean,
Yes,
there's more than one person that.
but is he holding on to it himself, or does he have access to that money without anybody else? then that's something you might want to consider. If we can talk more, if you have more specific issues like that, we can talk about, you can give us a call and we'll talk to you about it and walk you through. But it's kind of it's a gray line. It's the law. Yes, ma'am, you had a question?
What about those who are employed that handle that amount of money that were not as classified? Do you go back and redo them as a physical officer, or do you just let it go?
If they are already employed, the question was if they're already employed as a classified and they were ran as a classified employee and they are handling the $5,000 and you're realizing now, oh, I should have used that fiscal officer option, should I rerun them under 421? The answer to that question is, it's up to you. It would be best practice to probably go ahead and rerun them just to make sure. You don't want your school being on the news, but that's completely up to you all. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, like certified people get ran every 5 years to renew their license. But classified, there's no, if it's not in your policy, your school policy, there's no time frame for them to be rerun. I could
Okay.
be working for the district for 20 years.
That's a great question. So the question was, I have a classified employee who's been with my district for 30 years. Teachers and educators are ran every 5 years. How do I know if this person's clear and okay, and they don't have another issue, something hasn't come up? And that's where RAPBAC comes in. So we'll talk about that more, but basically it notifies the Arkansas Department of Education or whoever the authorizing agency is, because it's a government, it's a federal service that they offer. And so what that does is it notifies us of someone's arrest, and if we follow it. If they are convicted and it's a disqualifying offense, you'll be notified just as if they hadn't. So if your employee is still there, then you will know. We should know. We like to hope that we would know. That's the goal of the program, but we would notify you if something came up, if we were made aware of it. But every superintendent and everyone in this room has a duty to really, well, it's mostly superintendents have this duty to report any disqualifying offense to the state board, the Arkansas Department of Education, of any employee that they know of. So you know how sometimes people start talking too much and say, oh my goodness, it was a great weekend, I got arrested for such and such and such and such. Oh my goodness, that person, you might want to make a quick phone call, send an email, say so-and-so got arrested for this. I'm not sure if it's a disqualifying offense, but you can look it up. We might send that on to PLSB, depending on what kind of thing is going on. PLSB is our Professional Licensure Standards Board. They look at the ethics side of things, but if it's a disqualifying offense and they're convicted, we'll be letting you know. So there's no, yeah, so it's okay. Just let us know if you hear somebody talking, because you know people love to talk. So, yes, ma'am?
Just a second about, like true findings on child maltreatment, like a neglect finding.
True findings on child maltreatment. So, can we talk about that? The question was, can we talk about true findings on the child maltreatment central registry? I have a slide there, so we'll kind of talk about that more when we get there. Is that okay? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Superintendent, you would do as a fiscal officer, because they have authority to authorize anything, especially over a certain amount.
Yes.
Is there any other position you can, I just want to make sure we're covered.
So the question was, should the superintendent be ran as a fiscal officer? The answer to that question is yes. Because they do have access to more than $5,000, so you're going to want to go ahead and say, yeah, let's run you this way. Is there any other position that I can think of that would have that option or need that option? Just the bookkeeper and probably those secretaries. Anybody, anything else? Yes, ma'am?
What about your board member that is on your check, right?
The board member that's on your check, they do not need to, no. Okay, so you're going to go to your background check website, and you click this lovely little link down here. It is your payment information website. It's your list of live scan locations. Your list of live scan locations is on the background checks website, and this will come up. This is the form that comes up. For out-of-state applicants, because sometimes you might have someone who's applying from out of state, depending on where you're located in Arkansas, they need to get a paper card from the Arkansas Department of Education. because, or if they're close enough and they want to drive down to Arkansas, that's an option they have as well. Some people like to do that because they know it's going to take longer with the paper cards. But they can do a paper card. They'll just call us, or you can send it out to them, but we prefer that they call us. And they can go to their local law enforcement agency for fingerprinting. They need to make sure they have a copy of their receipt and their consent form even when they go to their local law enforcement agency, as well as the valid government issued ID. And then everything that they have, they need to send a copy to us. Send a copy of that fingerprint card to us. Child Maltreatment Central Registry form. It must be complete. There is no computer system that says whether you're on the Child Maltreatment Registry. This is old school books, people. So we need nice, neat handwriting. We're working on getting this form online so it'll be fillable and easy to just push print. But if they wrote something and you're like, I don't know if that's an R, I don't know what this says, you might want to have them redo it. It includes all of their children, even if it's a stepchild, even if that child is now an adult. You want to make sure that they have their children listed, because sometimes if they can't read that person's name, they'll run it by their child to see who is on the list. Was this person there? Is it child to the child? You need the school information on this form. That way we can notify you. Like, there are we have all these places where we ask for your school because we want to make sure that we're getting this information to the correct people that need it. And so if you want to be notified, please, please, please fill out that school information. So if they have a true finding, we're not going to tell you they have a true finding. We just say denied. We say if it's a classified employee, they are not eligible for employment. If it's a teacher, we say they are not eligible for employment. Yes, ma'am.
I know that we can go in for licensure search and check as those are being processed and see the status, but what kind of communication does the individual receive when they're going through that process to know where we're at and if it's stalled or not?
Yes. So the individual can use the same public access to see what's going on their account. They can see if it's still pending, denied, approved. They can also log in and look at their stuff. Only the applicant has the right to look at that information because it's private information. Districts, employers do not have the right to access that information. So you want to let the applicant know that they can check online and see if it's pending. We're going to talk more about timelines and when they need to talk to us, but we talk to them. If they call us and ask us what's going on, why was I denied, why am I not eligible for employment, we'll tell them. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Yes, ma'am?
Is there a new form? I noticed I had couple guys come back from ADE and they had a different form for Central Registry than what I gave them.
Yes.
So I didn't know if it was going to be publicized.
Yes, so there is a new Child Maltreatment Registry form. We are working on getting it up on the website, but there is a new form. I have the old form in the presentation, but the new form is very similar. It's just clearer and a little bit more space for people to write. But it's the same concept. So it has to be complete. It still has to have their name and information. It has to list the school information, and it still must be notarized. That notary lets us know that you are the person you say you are, giving us access and consent to look into your history. They need to make their payment to DHS, not the Arkansas Department of Education, but DHS. The types of forms of payment that are accepted are listed and identified on the form. And then they need to return the form to DHS. If they send it to us, we're kind enough to forward that information to DHS, but send it to DHS. And we suggest, that you send it by certified mail or some other way so that you know that they got it, because it's DHS. It's a government agency. You know what it's like trying to get information from DHS sometimes. Not just DHS, but all of us. On this website, there's all of the information you need on how to, identifies the disqualifying offenses, the live scan locations, and Child Maltreatment Central Registry form. It's right down there at the bottom. When you click that link, this is what pops up. And this is our old form, but the new one is coming. It'll be a little bit more space for writing, and hopefully it will be fillable. So they can just type it in and push print, and that'll be easier as well. So we filled it out. That school information is in green because it's really important for you all to fill that out for us, please. And we need them to be sure to list their correct address. We need their physical address and their mailing address because that's part of how they're notified. Sometimes people put the wrong address places. If we get return mail, we ask for these addresses all the time to make sure that they're lined up in the right place, like that we're sending what they need to do, what we need to do, so that they're getting their information. Put it in the mail. Yes, ma'am.
I've had them ask me, my children are grown, do I need to put that down?
The question was, do I need to put my grown children down? Yes. Yes, we do. If they are your child, your stepchild, your adopted child of yours needs to be on that form.
I tell them anyone living under their roof, because there could be kids that are
Yes.
underneath their roof. Is that okay?
She stated that she put anyone that's living under their roof or has lived under their roof. Is that okay to say? Yes. You can say that. It covers you for more kids. So, but with the typing of the form, filling it out clearly, we should eliminate a lot of problems. Please make sure they write down the correct social security number. I know that sounds odd, but social security numbers matter. And same with date of birth. So if you're typing things in as well for them, go ahead and make sure that you're double checking, sometimes triple checking that information. I know sometimes we're on autopilot, but you want to make sure that that information is correct because sometimes that one number off could matter. So I think, yes, Ms. Tony?
All children, even deceased children, are to be listed as well.
Yes, Ms. Tony said all children, even deceased children, are to be listed. So if they've passed on, you need to go ahead and list them as well. So I think this is a good place to go ahead and take a minute before we talk about what happens next. Is everybody okay with that, or you want to keep going? Okay, we'll keep going, no problem. Okay, so what happens next? What's the next big thing? Once we get your forms, your fingerprint cards, it's uploaded into the Arkansas State Police, like you've put your fingerprints into this machine, what happens? It's sent to the Arkansas State Police, who sends it to the FBI. And then we get the state police background check for Arkansas information. We get the FBI background check for federal national information. Sometimes we get other countries as well. And then the Arkansas Department of Education reviews all 3 documents. Unfortunately, you guys do not have access to that. We're not going to tell you what's going on. You're just going to get that eligibility status of employable, not employable. That's just how it is. Everyone has a right to privacy, and so that's just where we are. And our website will show pending while the information is processed. And you might think, man, I sent that in 2 months ago. What's taking so long? Sometimes the FBI is really, really slow in getting us our documents. Like, I've seen some things pop up 6 months later. The FBI person told me sometimes it takes 7 months. And so if you're waiting on something and you're like not sure, tell the applicant to call us and we will double check and find out what's going on. It's a yes, Ms. Reinhardt.
I just wanted to add to that, please do not assume that because something's taking a long time that somebody has a criminal record.
Yes.
Please do not assume that, because I've had instances where people would, we used to ask the school district to ask that person to give us more information. And, you know, I had a situation one time where that request got into the wrong hands. The teacher ended up having to leave the school system because students said to her that she had a federal record. And she was one of those cases where it was not her. She had no record. So please don't assume that a person, just because it's taking a long time.
Yes.
Because it could be an error, it could be a DWI that happened when they were in college, it's not disqualifying, you know, so please don't assume that.
So what Ms. Reinhardt stated, in case you didn't hear her, is please do not assume that because it's taking a long time that this individual has a criminal record. It can just take a long time, and so there's no assumption, there's nothing, don't make more of time, I guess is the easy way to say that. So if it takes a while, it's just blame it on the government. It's okay. It's not because the person was doing something they had no business doing. And then you can have denied. So the denied option pops up if anything happened on any one of those checks. If there's a disqualifying offense, it doesn't even have to, but our disqualifying offenses are also not criminal. If you were giving out test information that you shouldn't be giving out, we call it for cause. So if there's something going on like that, that's a reason that we would deny you as well. So there's other things more than just criminal that would be a denied reason. Yes, ma'am.
Does the Department of Human Services, once you send in the child maltreatment forms, does the Department of Human Services send those back with the approve stamp, or does it go to ADE and ADE sends it back? Because I have a hard time.
Okay, that's a good question.
I have lots of files out that, but I know that it's good because it says approved, so I know all three checks.
Yes.
But I don't have that slip of paper.
No. So the question was, does DHS send the form, like the information back to you guys, or does it send it to ADE? The Department of Human Services sends it to ADE. We're the people that get that information. So we are going to mark approved or denied once we have all of our information. So don't worry about getting that form back. They're not going to send it to you. DHS sends back to you guys. We're going to talk about that outside of this.
I've got it like, when I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Ms. Clara has more information on that.
The only way that you receive the results from DHS is that you mark through the Department of Education's address, and that's why you receive it. They mail the form back to the address that's on the form. If you use the Department of Education form, do not make any notations on it.
Yes.
Those will come directly to us. If you use the one on the website, DHS has one, have one on the website, that they don't have our address. And I think you put your school in there, and that's the address they're gonna mail it to, but always use the one that's required by the Department of Education, and we will receive it.
Always use the Department of Education's address so that we receive it. Do not use your individual address. Use the Department of Education's because that's the only way DHS would send it back to you. Yes, ma'am.
The preschool programs that we have,
Preschool
they
programs.
have their own forms. Department of Arkansas, they have their forms. So I send this one you all are showing on maltreatment, and I also send that one as well.
Yes.
Civil record check and then the maltreatment. So they have their forms, and they send a report back.
Yes. Okay.
So two different.
So the question was a preschool program, they have their own separate background checks and DHS forms they have to run, and as well as ours. So if you're getting the information back on your preschool program, that's okay. Sometimes individuals go through lots of background checks because of their job. Like they're not all aligned to say the same thing, and so they're just gonna have to have multiple. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say, Ms. Reinhardt, would you elaborate on the DHS preschool using their own form as opposed to what one from the Department of Ed?
Okay, all of these codes and things that go into our background checks, we have our Arkansas codes, and you have to select whether they're teacher, et cetera. Those purposes that's what limits what we can do with a background check with the FBI. So we can't accept the preschool background check. They shouldn't be accepting ours. They have to be separate.
Yes.
You would have to.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Now,
If you
not
have
to
a
say that
preschool
we can't.
program, if you have a preschool program, the DHS, that form, they don't charge you.
They charge you a yearly fee of $50 for the
Yeah,
preschool
But
side.
you don't,
They
yeah,
charge you
preschool
$50
side, but you don't have to
and
pay individually
No,
the
not
$10.
individually, you just pay for that side.
Yes, ma'am.
So for our BDK, I'm U of A, so for our BDK pre-service teachers, right, did I hear you correctly that they may actually have to do two separate background checks, one for, two child maltreatment checks, one for preschool DHS and one for ADE licensure?
So now for child maltreatment, I don't know how DHS treats that. I just know that for the
Yes.
So for the background check, they would.
So the question was, if you have a B to K program, does the individual need to have their background check run twice, once for Department of Education and once for DHS? The answer to that question is yes, you would. It's because that they're run under different numbers and for different purposes. So who will the ADE talk to? We talk to the applicant. Oh, I'm sorry, yes?
Quick question, child maltreatment.
Yes.
We also have to take that program.
Yes.
On the fingerprints, I've had 2 or 3 calls from DHS wanting me to send them the card. And I tell them we don't do cards anymore, we do electronically, so how would they get the result before they go with the card?
If it's, so the question was, how do they get the results for the pre-K program for fingerprints? If they're running if you're running fingerprints for the Department of Education, DHS is not going to get that information. If DHS wants that information, they're going to run their own background check and do it that way. Yes, ma'am.
The reason I understand that I have a preschool program, the reason they're running the paper fingerprints is if you're trying to employ someone that has been out of state and they're coming back into Arkansas and they'll run a paper fingerprint, because I just did that.
Yes.
And they will not accept electronic fingerprints, you have to do the paper prints.
There's no difference in that at all. That's
That's another one of those things that when, just like the 2 child maltreatment.
Yes, ma'am.
You got to do 2 of them.
Yes, ma'am.
They won't accept electronic, they want the paper.
Yes, ma'am.
You got to doing it, it took 4 months.
They're a different agency, and so
Well, that's a question too. You're employing someone that you have a pending on. Are you, I mean, you know, if it comes back 8 months later and you've got them employed, are we supposed to, are we held harmless when they come back is, you know, I mean, you know?
no.
You have to wait that 8 months before they get cleared.
I'm going to let Ms. Reinhardt answer that question.
Okay, no, you are, you employ that person at your own risk.
Right, okay,
So you would not be held harmless for that, okay?
yeah.
If you do go ahead and employment, then your contract or whatever agreement should say pending clearance of background check.
Okay, and that's why we say
Fire
in
that
our board
person.
minutes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, and on our contracts and all that.
yes, so,
I just find it interesting that, you know, it can take up to 12 months to get someone cleared, and you have a,
I wouldn't say 12 months, but.
well, I mean, it says up to.
We work if it's taking that long, you need to call us because we're going to take a look at what's going on.
Yeah.
If it's taking, if you have people that are sitting and not cleared, call us, please. If it's been more than a month, give us a call. Give us a call, and we'll see what's going on. Because sometimes things just get stuck. So just give us a call.
That's exactly what we heard when we called. We don't, it's just, I don't know.
And that's why we're calling, we need you to call.
That's, yes, yes. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So if they're pre-K, they need to do maltreatment check and background check through the DHS and for you guys?
No.
Okay, so
Only if they're out of state, do they have to do fingerprint,
let's,
to do background, FBI and the other one, unless they're out of state.
alrighty. So what the question was if they're pre-K, do we have to do both background checks?
Everyone, I know everyone has a lot of questions, but we kind of listen so that everyone's questions can be answered. And so, we're in school.
So, okay, so the question was if they're pre-K, do they need to have both background checks, the Arkansas Department of Education and the DHS? Yes. We do our background checks for ADE licensure purposes for classroom to make sure these people are supposed to be in the classroom. DHS does their own background checks for their own purposes. Whatever policies and procedures DHS sets is between the applicant and DHS. We don't touch it. What we touch is what the ADE handles, and so unfortunately, they're just going to have to do both background checks. And maltreatment. Yes. When we say background checks, I'm sorry, I include everything. I'm including child maltreatment and the fingerprint part with the Arkansas State Police and the FBI. Yes, sir.
What about fiscal officers and vendors?
What about fiscal, okay.
Do they have to do the maltreatment as well?
Yes. The question was, do fiscal officers have to do the maltreatment as well? The answer to that question is yes. You're not going to get an approved status from us unless we have all three. Doesn't matter. So we're going to need all three. So when the applicant calls and says, hey, can you talk to my wife? We'll say, no. If you call and say, tell me what's going on with such and such, I've been waiting for 6 months, I'll say, well, it's still pending. Please have the applicant call us. And you need to send them to us. If their spouse calls and says, my husband applied for this job and he was told he has such and such, can you tell me what's going on? We're not. Their kids call, say the same thing. We're not talking to them. We verify that it's you, and we'll talk to you. So, what do you get to know? Just this. Whether you're approved or denied. There's no information given on which check is pending. We're not going to say to you, oh, we're still waiting to hear back from the Arkansas State Police. We're not going to say we're waiting to hear back from the FBI or, oh, this child maltreatment check is what is holding us up. We're just going to tell you, have the applicant call us. Or, yes, they were approved. Or, no, they were denied. And the only reason we'll tell you if it's approved or denied is because it's on the public website. If it's not on the public website, you're not going to get that information from us, unfortunately. Okay, so the time frame for the background check process. This is a big one because this is what matters. Fingerprints, 4 to 6 weeks on a paper card. That's our ideal dream time. About 4 weeks if you get it done on the live scan machine. That's like from start to finish. Like from the time that you make your payment, you live scan machine to approved. So it should take about 4 weeks, which is why we're saying if it's longer than 4 weeks, give us a call and let us know. We'll look into it. We'll probably tell you to have the applicant call us, but that gives us a starting point of let's look into this. Again, it may take longer depending on how long it takes the FBI to send us back the report, but that does not mean there's something there. Yes. Because sometimes people don't have fingerprints, sometimes you have to run it based on other qualifications and lists, and it just gets a while.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have cards for the 411 and the 421?
The question was, do we have cards for the 411 and 421? The answer to that question is no. We do not have cards for the 411 and 421. So they'll need to, no.
Put them on the classified if they're not a teacher. Put them on the classified card. On the form that they have, as far as the consent form, if they're the fiscal officer, check that box. If they're classified, check that box. But we do not have a card outside of non-classified and licensed. So it's only those two cards, and that's what's in those packets on the table. Is that clear?
Okay. If we develop cards that say 421, or if we get cards that have other options on them, we'll let you know. We'll probably just send out an email, which is why we have everybody's email address now. So we'll send up little, hey, this changed. So thank you for providing your email address. So Child Maltreatment Central Registry, give us about 4 weeks because this is old school paper binders, books. There's a big room and files. So give us about 4 weeks before you contact us, and we'll start the process because it's easier for you to contact us. We like to think that we're happy, smiling people, especially compared to other people. So go ahead and give us a call. We'll look into it for you. But what you're going to want to do with this child maltreatment registry is figure out your process. Are you going to tell everybody, hey, send this by certified mail so that you have a date of when DHS got it and you're not going to be wondering, did they get this form? Did they not get this form? You as the employer can collect them and mail them off for them, and that way you know that it's done. That's an option that you have. Or you can leave it up to the applicant and let them take some ownership in their actions. But it's best for you to go ahead and figure out what process you want to do and have for your employees. Again, make sure that they write neatly or type the form. So if their fingerprints are rejected, they are sent to the address that's on the card. So make sure the address on the card is not your school or your you as the employer, you want the address of the applicant on that card. Because if something goes wrong, Arkansas State Police, they don't really tell us. They're going to mail that to the individual. And that individual needs to follow through. So they need that information. It does not need to come to you. It needs to go to the applicant. Do not tell them to go to the LiveScan site or go back. If they call you and say, hey, I got this thing in the mail, can I just come back and redo my fingerprints? No. They need to follow the instructions in the card. Well, in the packet that the state police mails to you. So, verification codes, we talked about those briefly in the beginning. Everyone should have a verification code. They are provided by you, the employer, to the applicant. If you don't give it to them, they don't know who or why, and it helps us make sure, again, that everybody is getting the necessary information. If you don't have your code, contact the Arkansas Department of Education. If you're a third-party vendor and you need a new code, or you're realizing, ooh, we have a lot of third-party vendors that are in our school building acting as full-time staff and filling a staff position, we might need to get these people background checks, but we don't want to be really handling that. We want to leave that up to the company. Tell your company, hey, your people need to be background checked. Talk to the ADE about getting a verification code so your employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing, okay? And we will be happy to provide them with a verification code so that they are able to process and meet your needs. The verification codes are important because it helps us. It's one more check to make sure that these background checks are being done for the right reason. Not everybody has access to the criminal history report provided by the FBI. And so to keep that, we have to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, which means that people aren't just coming in off the street saying, hey, I want a background check before I apply for this job. No, you need to be applying for this job and actively seeking employment with somebody before you start just doing a background check. So that's why we ask for a verification code, to make sure that you as the employer really want this person to be doing this background check for you. So this is the part that is it's up there. Your fingerprints matter. Employability status is super important because this is, I think, where the ball gets dropped a lot. You want to make sure after you go through this process that this person is safe to be in your school. Because if I tell you they're denied and you don't get that, you don't get the letter that I sent, you don't check on the website, there's nothing more I can do for you. I told you they were denied. So you're going to go to the website. You search the person's name, and you get the results. The easy way to find this website is Google Arkansas Educator Licensure System, and you just access it that way. Just type in their name. The results are pending, approved, and denied. That's what it looks like on the screen. You type in their last name. And then you will find the person you're looking for. We have Jane Doe. She's a top person. And her result is pending. That's the first thing you're going to look at. The next thing that's really great about this site is there's this little ethics violation part. If they have an ethics violation that's going to matter to you as a district, it's going to be right up here. So if it's involving a sexual offense, that's also listed on our website. Denied and not eligible for employment. What's that going to look like for you? You get notified. When we send someone a letter saying you were denied, we send a letter to the applicant and we send a letter to you. You, if it's a classified employee, get a letter and a notice that you're supposed to mail to the applicant, so that way they have two forms of notice. If you are a school district, 617-414 says that the district shall, which means it's a must, it's not an optional, afford the person the opportunity to request a waiver from their school district. So, if that's your situation for your classified employee, check the website, and we have a step-by-step process if you end up there. If they're a licensed employee, You just get a letter saying so-and-so is not eligible for employment, and they're supposed to contact us within 14 days. And we've sent them notice, and we move the process along that way. This just says what we talked about a minute ago. Classified employees have the option to request a waiver from the school district. See the website for instructions. Oops. And if the waiver is granted, you need to send us a copy of what you guys got. That's also listed in your instructions, but send us a copy of your waiver. That way we know that this person is good to work in your district. It only applies to your district. It does not transfer. It's not movable. They're going to have to, if they change, they're going to be notified. Yes, ma'am.
One thing I would add here too is that if the school district does waive the disqualification, we will still show denied on the website. So that, and that's because if they move and go to another school district, that process has to happen again.
Yes.
So they still have to show as denied.
Yes. So if the person, if the school district does grant the waiver, they will still show as denied on the public site, because if they want to go to another district, they still have to go through the whole waiver process again. So when you get a letter from the school district, well, from the Arkansas Department of Education for your classified employees, you're going to see the code 617-414. Applicant is not eligible. Send a written notice and shall afford the applicant an opportunity for a waiver. That's what you're going to see. If you're a third-party vendor, it's a may, and you still have to go through the school district. So the school district, if you're a school district and you're handling this for a vendor, you don't have to. It's an option. For licensed employees, it's going to say 617-410. Deny the educator's eligibility. State board may waive the disqualification. For vendors, we still say 414. Not eligible. Please send the attached written notice to the applicant. And the school district the applicant may have, but it's not required to be granted the waiver option. Now, wrap back. This is what we talked about earlier. So you're a classified employee, you've been there long term. How are we notified? Through wrap back. Wrap back is not a rap battle. I tried to find a really fun one for you guys to watch, but they're all really long. But you should definitely YouTube Princess Rap Battle. It's awesome. But what it is a service that allows authorized agencies like the Arkansas Department of Education to be notified of arrest activity on individuals who hold positions of trust. So that's everybody in our schools. If you are an employee, you're in a position of trust. It eliminates the need for a repeated background check. So now with WrapBack, you don't have to come every 5 years to get your fingerprints redone. Instead of destroying them, the FBI keeps them and will rerun them at that appropriate time period. So that's the benefit. And everyone is automatically, it's an opt-out option, not an opt-in option. So if you've had your fingerprints done since January 2nd of 2018, you're in WrapBack. Like your fingerprints are stored.
What date again?
January 2nd, 2018. Your fingerprints are stored. So before WrapBack, the background check system provided just a one-time snapshot of this is where we were, this is what was going on in this person's life as of this date, 2006, for a classified employee. Nothing's been done, they've been in the same school district. So now, let's say they had a really good time this weekend, we should get some notification. But we wouldn't, because if they were out of state, they were in Florida on spring break with their family and they got arrested for public intox, would we be notified of this person's arrest? Anybody? Probably not, because we last did their background check when? In 2006. So if they're 2018, you just hired a young person and they're having a great time on spring break, yes, we're likely to catch that person. But there are other ways because, again, we have a duty to report. So with WrapBack, the ADE can receive ongoing status notifications. So we'll know. We're notified. And if it's a conviction that is a disqualifying offense, we will notify you with the same letters that their employability status has changed. And all that was pulled from the FBI's Next Generation Identification. So WrapBack, you're already consented to it. On your online consent form, that's where it is. It's there and it's in the INA. Both of your consent forms have you're submitting to continuous checks. So yes. If the benefit to the applicant and the employees that they don't have to keep getting fingerprinted. People don't like that. Some people are like, I'm never getting in trouble. Here, keep my fingerprints. But you can opt out. If you want to opt out, you need to send written notification to the ADE. We need your name, social security number, and we don't want to be in here anymore. We're opting out of RAPBAC. All of the details for opting out of RAPBAC are included in the fine print. All of the information that they check the boxes to, that will tell them specifically what we need. So, what does the district get to know? Nothing. I'm sorry. Unless there's a change in the employability status. If there's a change in a person's employability status, then you'll know, unless they like to talk. Again, you have that duty to report your licensed employees as well as your classified employees. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
When we fingerprint all of our students as they're being admitted into the program, then as it's time for them to be licensed, what do you suggest we do? Because we usually make them come in to do fingerprints at that point, so.
Okay, so the question was people that are fingerprinted when they are admitted to the program and then when they're on their way out, I'm guessing, how do we need to re-fingerprint them? And Cheryl stood up, so I'm guessing she wants to address that one. No, go ahead.
Now, I think some programs, educator preparation programs, do a preliminary background check at the beginning of their programs. I don't know if
We do the full,
you do the full one.
full
Well, if it ends up being more than 2 years, then they'll have to do a second one. But if they're, if it's still within a year, did I say 2 years?
You said 2 years.
If it's more than a year, they should do another one, so.
But what
could be
about the
incurring
fingerprinting?
We do all 3 background checks, we don't
But
do.
with the RAPBAC,
We would need to we will need a new set of fingerprints because that initial set of fingerprints, if it's done after 2018 for ADE.
That's what I'm saying, we'll have a new cohort that comes in the fall.
Okay.
We will fingerprint and do a whole set of background checks. So it will be probably another 3 years before they graduate if they're doing the MAT program. And they will have to do background checks for the initial licensure. At that point, will they have to do a new set of fingerprints?
No.
And yes, they should not have to.
No, they would not have to do the fingerprinting.
Okay.
They would still have to run the background check.
But the fingerprints should be stored.
So you still pay the fee?
Yes.
Okay, that's.
The question is, do you still pay the fee? Yes, that money is still coming in because the state police and FBI are not doing it for free. Yes, so at the end of that 5-year time period, so let's say 2018, you just renewed your license. 5 years from now, you still have to pay the new fee to get them to rerun your license, but not your background check information, but you do not have to come into a live scan location to get new fingerprints. Yes, ma'am.
How do they know whether they're required to come into the extra fingerprints done? Will it tell them they pay the fee, or?
The question was, how will they know if they need to come to the live scan location or whether they can just hold on?
And then if they have a good set of fingerprints after January 2nd of 2018, then they don't have to re-fingerprint. They will, if there's someone who has bad fingerprints and has to go through that name check process every time, they'll have to continue to do that. But if they have a good set of prints.
If you're in doubt, so on the public website, it tells you the date that it was approved. I would use that as your date. If their date was approved after January 2nd, 2018, if we don't have fingerprints for them and you haven't called, and if there's nothing that's changed in their stuff in a month, say, hey, what's going on? We'll know. We'll talk to the applicant. We'll say, talk to the applicant. Tell the applicant to give us a call. We'll still tell them, hey, you need new prints because it didn't work out. But for the most part, that date on the public website is probably a good date to go with because for the most part, that's when we'll have completed that check most recently. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one more thing. We are going to try to put this on the application for renewal, the online application. It should, you know how it pops up. You don't have your background checks. we wanna have a field on there that says, you know, you do not need to be re-fingerprinted. So we'll work on that, but that may take us a year or so.
Yes, so there are technical changes coming in the future that will let you know whether they need to or not. The applicant would be notified if they need to or not. But for the now, just use the public site for the date. Yes, ma'am? Did you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
But, and Ms. Reinhardt may say, that this is not the place for it, so volunteers, and I see like PTO, PTA president.
Yes.
Are people that may handle, and I know it's an internal procedures within your
Yes.
school district or whatever, but still, would you suggest that we require them to, and like I said, it may not be part of this, because this is employability, they're not our employee.
So, but that's a good question because we get that question a lot.
And another one is watchdog dads, things like that, those kind of
Yes.
programs that people, they're not supposed to be left one-on-one with students or anything like that, but still, I know there's a model policy for volunteers, but can
So,
we talk about that?
The question is, how does this apply to your volunteers? Unfortunately, the ADE does not cover the background checks for the volunteers, but the state police does offer a different rate for that, and you go directly through the state police. So you would call them and say, hey, I need to background check my volunteer, what do I need to do? And they'll explain that process to you, but it doesn't go through us. And so, yeah, like the state police will be happy to help them, just not your applicants, I'm sorry. Anybody?
I just had like a dance coach that was helping our dance teams or whatever, so, and I mean, I did tell her to go to a live scan and that, so I did the wrong thing.
It's okay.
But that's what I need to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
Tell our auditors. Just don't tell our auditors that.
We're being recorded. Yes, ma'am?
We hire, a lawn service,
Okay.
who do you think, right?
So the question is, we hire a lawn service. Who do we fingerprint? Are they a regular staff employee? Like, is it always? It's a contract. So, but if you didn't hire it out, would someone else be hired to do this job? Like, would you hire some?
Well, yes, we hire somebody to do it.
Then, yeah, probably.
I mean, they have several employees, you fingerprint it.
You've got a couple options. You can tell them you need to have all of your people fingerprinted, or you can say, pick one, and this is the only one that's coming to our school. But if they're filling a regular staff position, they need to be fingerprinted. Regular staff position. So it's kind of, we'll talk more about that one, but it comes down to regular staff position. And I don't know where you are, so if you're with, it just depends. There's a lot of factors. Yes, ma'am?
Okay. Our school district has hired two special education teachers from the Philippines on a teacher exchange, not exchange, a teacher program. Okay, I got an email from one of them this week. She has been assigned to teach special education. She's got a 91 on the TOEFL exam. The school district may receive the result in a few days. How does she process her license if she comes in July? What do we do?
So the question is, we have a foreign applicant who needs a background check because she's going to be teaching in our schools. What do we need to do? The general answer to that question is call us, because it's going to, when we start talking about foreign applicants, it kind of gets more in depth than what we need. Just because of different types of government ID and how things are run. And so I'm going to say go ahead and give us a call, and we'll talk more about that on a one-on-one basis, and we'll go from there.
Okay. She's not arriving until July.
Okay, we've got time. We've got time. Yes, ma'am.
I have one more question on the volunteers. Like on a coach that he does, I mean, he's there for a whole season, he's a softball coach. And he is there, like, and that's his full capacity. Does he do the full background checks? I mean, he is the sole one that's for the, he works under like the athletic coach, but he is the sole coach of that team.
Is he a volunteer or an employee?
He is still a volunteer, yes, he does not
If
get paid.
he is a volunteer, that would go through the Arkansas State Police. We only deal with actual employees.
The conversation's making me a little restless about this, because we are not permitted by law, we are not permitted by federal regulation to run a background check for volunteers. So please do not run them as classified, okay? Because that would be a violation of federal law. So don't do that. So
So just to make sure everybody heard that, please do not run your volunteers as classified employees. That would be a violation of federal law. Please do not run your volunteers as classified employees. Anything else? Go ahead.
Would you still do the child maltreatment? Would you still give them the child maltreatment?
I believe-
understand sending them to state police and doing that piece, but would you still do a child maltreatment?
I believe they have a child maltreatment part as well. So the next part, portable machines. I'm just going to give you like a little brief part about it. We're going to take a quick break, and then Alicia is going to talk to you. I'm sorry, Ms. Clara is going to talk to you guys about how to check them out and how they work.
This is the portion that we're going to go into about how to do the fingerprints and how the process works. In your packet, Ms. Blacks have gone over most of all of this information, but we want to re-emphasize the fact that all the forms, like if you're looking in your packet, the child maltreatment registry form, this is the form that we're in the process of getting updated to the website. But please, when you have your applicants or your students fill out this form, make sure that this form is really completed in its entirety, okay? Because if we have any questions, we need to be able to contact the applicant or the school. Ms. Blacks have already went over this, but if you're looking in your packet, we have this in there, and we will have this on our website. Also in the packet, we have the live scan locations. If you're not sure where they're located, it's also on our website as well. And also we have familiar asked questions. If you have any questions that you have any concerns about, you can check our familiar asked questions, and mostly these questions can be answered right here on our website. As well as we have the step-by-step state and federal criminal background check report here that you can go and you can know the steps in order to go and to pay for your background check. Any information you want to know is basically here in this form as well as on our website. So also we have the required fingerprint cards that is used by classified employees as well as the teachers, okay? If you'll notice in your packet, we have the statute, the code that reference the non-criminal background check staff position. If you would look at the card and the ORI numbers that reference this type of background check being done, as well as the teacher. Each one of the ORI numbers are different. That's why when the client go in to pay for their classified background check or their teacher background check, if they are a teacher, they must pay for the teacher part of the background check, which would generate a transaction ID number with the EDN prefix, okay? The payment, if you use the fingerprint card, the payment and the card must coincide. If not, it will be returned because the state police will not process them. And then that will affect our audit as well. So, any questions? All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna demonstrate on how the process works. Another thing, you might have applicants that ask you how to get a copy of their state and federal background check. By law, we cannot release the child maltreatment. We can only give them the state and federal background check. And in order to get a copy of the state and federal background check, the client or the applicant must appear in person in the Department of Education with a government-issued ID, and there are forms that you will have to complete, and we can issue a copy of your state and federal background check. Well, if you come in, you can ask for Ms. Kamisha Smith or myself or Ms. Blacks or any of Ms. Alicia Washington, and we'll be glad to assist you in that manner. All right, as we get started here, Ms. Washington is going to demonstrate on how to do the background check and do the prints themselves. How many, as Ms. Blacks asked, how many actually do the background checks for your school? Okay, so you're familiar with the process a little bit. Those of you that are not, when they come to you to have their background checks done, They must bring with them the, as Ms. Black stated, the consent form, the government issued ID, and the transaction ID number generated through the payment, okay? Once they come in to the office, we will ask them for that information. We will okay.
On the screen, for those that are not familiar with it, as far as the process goes, they bring in the transaction number and the consent form, of course. If you are the fingerprinter, the INA descriptor fetch, you have that option to do, and what you do is you put in the last part of the transaction number, and then the birthday. If those two do not match, it will not fetch their information. But, you know, today we can't do it because we can't fetch anybody's actual information and show, but you can do that. You do have that option if you want to check out the information or check out the machine or anything. But for today's purpose, we're gonna go through the top one, which is the INA background, so.
Okay. All right, what she's going to do is that we have, I think the password for entering the machine is booking, BOOKING, okay? And once you enter into the, get into the system, she's going to put in the transaction ID number, whether it's an EDN or EDC, she will put that information in. Okay, at this point here, she's looking for, after she put in the transaction ID number, she's going to go in and search for that information, and then once she finds it, she will submit it, okay? If you were doing a fetch, she will go back in at the top and put the information in based on the transaction ID number. The information, if it's a fetch, it will generate all the characteristics of that individual. The only information that you would have to put in would, you would scroll down and you would go to the purpose that the person has ran the background check. If you'll see the different statuses in there, you have the classified, you have the non-classified, you have the the Department of Education, or the ASP. Okay, once you select how they did the fingerprints, then you will go and select the reason for the fingerprinting. And you'll select that information. And once you select that information, you will go to the next, you would hit next. If you were doing a fetch, all of this information here would be generated for you. But if you're not doing a fetch, you would have to enter it in manually. Once all the information is in, you can kind of scroll back up and verify that information is correct, and you would hit next. And now you're ready to do the fingerprints. The machine itself actually walks you through everything that you need to do. It would ask you, first of all, for the 2 thumbs. Okay, oh, another thing, if you would, have your clients to remove all jewelry from their hands, okay? Because the machine itself, the lens on this machine is very sensitive. And if it is damaged, the repair is around $10,000, okay? So if you would, before you do the fingerprints, have them to remove all jewelry, dangling bracelet, anything that will come in contact with the machine. Ms. Reinhardt.
And that $10,000 is not covered by maintenance, that would be covered by the school district or co-op that's running
Okay, if you didn't hear, it's not covered on maintenance. You will be required to pay the $10,000 or whatever cost covers to repair the machines, okay? All right, as we get started on the machines, it indicates on what you will need to do. First of all, it would ask for the first, your thumbprints, and as you notice, she's done the thumbprints. Now there's a way you as the operator is in control. I know a lot of you, the ones that have done fingerprints for their school, you run into individuals that are ex-law officers or ex-security guards or whatever, and they want to be the one that takes the lead, but you are the controller. You control how the prints are rolled, okay? There's a certain way that you roll them. If you'll look, when you roll the prints, you're looking at the ball of the finger, okay? So, so that you can get a good print. When the FBI reads the prints, they're reading the ridges in your finger, so you want to get the best possible print roll as possible, okay? So if you'll look at her roll each print, and actually the machine itself will walk you through just about everything that you would need to do. It's a very easy process. And if you have an individual that palms are very dry, we have a solution that you can contact us and we can give you the company information on where we order our information so that we can get a good print from our applicants or clients.
And while we're waiting, I just want to let you know that at the end of this, we have this machine and another machine set up so everybody can practice and do it themselves. If you want to see how good you are at this, is it going to turn green? And that way you just kind of get to touch it and put your hands on this machine before you take it home. Check it out.
We're going to explain how the checkout process works, okay? I'm sorry.
Tony, when my boss, the safety coordinator, does this and the green shows up, that's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when all the red shows up and sometimes you can't even read the teacher's fingerprint?
Mm-hmm. She wants to know that when a fingerprint is done and you don't get green and it is red, sometimes it says low quality. Is that what you're stating? Okay, in that respect, if you would, Alicia, can you do something to indicate it's not in slabs? But normally, if you get low quality, it's nothing that you have done. It's the ridges of the fingers of the individual. It could be that they've been using paper, whatever, household products, cleaning, what have you, and there's no fingerprints. See? No. You go ahead on and complete the process, okay? If it says not in slabs, you might want to redo your 4 slabs, okay? That might be a possibility to get it to be.
We try everything.
Yes. A rule of thumb that we do here in the department, we only try about twice, okay? Because you can spend all day trying to get.
That makes it worse.
Yes.
You'll get an R, but the number is like 102, but it's an R. It's
Yes.
not an A, B, or C.
Just, yes. Okay. We're waiting. Okay, when you go to the case summary, if you look at the case summary and go to the, click on the resolution. Okay, right there, when you go to the resolution, if the resolution is high, like 70 or 80, I wouldn't redo the prints, okay? Because you have a good, clear print, all right? So, Okay, is that what you were speaking of, the resolution?
Because I'll go and look and say,
Mhm.
okay, well, that's a good number. And
Yeah, if it's a good number, I would just continue and go ahead and submit it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, and once you go to the case summary and you look over everything and say, it says, is that finger not in, it's not in slab?
Yeah, it's not a slab.
Okay, that's your question, not in slab. If you look at that, what you would do is you can go back and rescan that, all right? And you will go back to the original 4 slabs. You're gonna try the, she said you're gonna try the individual first. And if that doesn't work, and then you can go back to doing the 4 slabs. See, there you go. Okay? So once, if you get a not in slabs, try the individual rows, and then if that doesn't work, then you can go back to the original 4 slabs, and that should get you where you need to be. Yes. And after you have reviewed the case summary and everything looks good, then you go back to the submission site, and you would always select the number 4. And you would hit finish. And then to verify, well, you won't be well, they will be submitting. You won't submit. You will bring the machines back to the Department of Education, and we will do the submitting. And that's the simple process of doing the fingerprints. So, and if you...
I'm sorry, you said that was for the portable one, you won't submit them?
No, you will not submit them. If you check the machine, no, you will not. The Department of Education will do the submitting. And to those of you that would like to check out the machines, we do have paperwork that you come in. We will, you will check with Miss Alicia here, and she will get all the paperwork that you will need, and then you will check the machines out. We try not to let them go for about 2 weeks at a time. And if you can get them back in that 2-week time, but you can just let us know if you need it longer, and we can adjust to that.
So if you do separate, I'm sorry.
If the co-op comes and does on, and the co-op brings the machine to us and they do it, and they can submit, correct?
Yeah, the co-ops have the ability to take it back to their,
Sometimes they'll come and instead of they go to our district Jackson City.
correct, the co-op will do their own submissions.
So how would you know who to submit? The person provides you a list of people that they feed that day? Different, they got 20 people they're doing on your portable machine.
The machine itself will
Has it
keep,
in the database?
yes.
But what if it's some previously in there? And y'all just leave them out?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Is there, so if we can check out the machine to use, is there a cost involved in that process, or only if we?
No, there's no cost.
Okay.
No cost. The only cost is that the machine is damaged.
Right.
Okay. Question? Okay. So if you are interested in checking out the machines, let us know. And if you're not comfortable with this brief training, call us earlier, and we can give you a one-on-one training in our office before you take the machines out.